Hello and welcome to the third episode of SocioTalks, where we talk to leaders, innovators, and change makers in the social and impact sector. So, today we have with us Dr. Manoj, who's the co founder of Pelican Kenterra. Thank you for joining in, sir. How are you?
Thank you so much, Abhishek ji, for this opportunity. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm great, sir. I'm great. We'll start with a bit of your background. So, where did you grow up and how did Pelican Kenterra happen?
So I'm from a village in Kerala. So village in the sense, probably if I can explain, I had 5 cows, 7, 8 goats, many hens to live with me. I'm a big animal person. I have dogs at home now. And I think all the street dogs are my friends. So I just want to give a glimpse of my animality. So, and I'm from a village in Kerala, in the backwaters, Alapi district. And I did my graduation there. And then my father got transferred and we went to Tamil Nadu, where I did my post-graduation from Tyagaraja Engineering College, Madurai, and my PhD from Gandhigram. At Tyagaraja Engineering College, I met my wife, Dr. Priya, and then we are together since then. And then while doing PhD, struggling for getting results, I left in between and joined the pharma industry and then went forward. That's how I reached there.
So, what was your PhD in?
My PhD was in phytopharmaceutical chemistry, isolating pharmaceutical compounds from plants and then doing animal studies, structural elucidations, stuff like that. Drug research, basically.
And for how long did you do the pharmaceutical job that you were doing initially?
So my first and last job was for 3 years. Then I was consultant for a couple of years, thinking what to do next for my livelihood. So maybe we can put around 5 years of my career from the age of 30 to 35. I was in pharma. That's it.
And like, how did the shift from pharma industry to the waste management industry happen? Like, what are the, if you think on your journey, what were the specific moments when you thought that you should shift towards waste management? What were the milestones which led you to starting Pelican Kenterra?
So basically, I got into the medicinal chemistry or pharmaceutical chemistry because I want to become a doctor. I didn't get through the entrance. No, I'm not a slogger and I cannot memorize things. And then the next best thing was to become a drug scientist. And I got into, and that's why I took pharma. And when I got into the pharma, I realized that, most people don't need medicines. Most of us don't need medicines. 80% of us don't need medicines, actually. And what we need is actually good food, good health in terms of physical fitness and mental fitness. I'll if I can, put a gradient of requirements. First is mental fitness. That is the most important part. If it is not fit, all the diseases, all the physical ailments starts. Second is physical fitness. Third is good food. And fourth is environment. So I realized, if you have these four, then you don't need medicines. 90%, 80 to 90% people don't need any medicine. But the first three is actually a personal choice. I don't think I can interfere. But I thought, okay, the only place where I can interfere as a chemist, because then I realized, once you started looking into the environment, huge amount of pollution happening, chemical toxicity happening, new and new diseases happening. So then I realized, my call was there. Rather than trying to make money out of pharma, I thought, okay, let me just start, because I am mostly a social man. I want to react to the social society's call. And I think most of us are actually, then we get stuck in a place and then we don't have the guts to get out. I think I had extra guts to get out of that. And I pursued environmental protection. That's why I got into waste management. But then getting into waste management per se, I thought actually industry was polluting. Industry, chemical pollution was the biggest cause of the environmental damage. But then when I started working with industry, I was shocked to know most of them are actually having very good compliance with effluent. But there was only one entity which was not having any control in this world, especially in India. That was common citizen. That the citizen can throw. They can throw waste at will. They can throw. So I don't think anybody else in this world, any industry can throw cadmium into the street. Only human beings can throw nickel cadmium battery into the street, mercury vapor in CFL bulb into the street, lead in electronic goods into the street, all the plastic, all these things only a common citizen can do. I think what I found is an industry with around 100 people is much less polluting than a small society, maybe of 25 families. Then I realized, like, it's time to start working with the society and change that mindset. That's why I reached waste management.
Okay. So if you could tell us a bit on the details part of it, like what are the specific areas that you went into initially, where you were, working with the households, or let's say you started with the industry part. So you must have done a fair amount of research and your own, your own research about these things. So what did you learn in those? First, that you mentioned was that the chemical industry or the industries are not producing that much waste that these households are producing. So how did you design your own solutions in that way?
So yeah, that was also a journey because when I started working on the domestic waste, I was of an impression that I can see we are all fed a, sorry for making this statement, we have been fed a big lie that plastics are recyclable, many things are recyclable, non-biodegradable waste is recyclable. I was also caught into that. Despite being a chemist, many chemists even think like that. So as a chemist, I was more worried about the chemical toxicity. Somehow I was pretty confident that biodegradable waste is not creating much problem in the society. So I started thinking of collecting plastic. So we started an NGO in 2000 and started working with the society, especially in our local self-government bodies. And we started collecting this plastic waste from various residents associations, etc., and worked with a few politicians. And we started sending it for recycling with a very firm belief that it's going for recycling. And at the time, this pyrolysis into fuel has started, waste to energy plant started. So we are all thinking that we are doing great job. And then once we start doing that, a few years went like that, and then suddenly we started reading more about it. Thanks to the many activities happening across the globe, internet which came up at that time, we started looking into the plastic waste management, what the nitty gritty is about it, and I was shocked to know that all this is pyrolysis, waste energy plants, everything are actually basically all big lies. Basically, only supporting the removal of plastic and converting from a solid waste into gaseous waste. The solid waste is more easy to handle; it is in my location. The gaseous waste is like a monster.
Mm.
So then I realized, like, this is not the way to go forward, and started looking more deeply. And why this plastic waste management? How can we change it? That is where then the next problem came up, the mixed waste syndrome, where, people mix waste and then put it forward. And, I'm from a state like Kerala. Thankfully, the social response to a social issue is much, much higher, with compared to the rest of the country. So thanks to the many IAS officers, politicians, we are able to put forward a program for source level segregation. So there are two problems. One is how to take care of the plastic. So the solution which came up was like, we have to start reducing the consumption. So there was a plastic awareness program starting. At the same time, we started with segregation. So we want to stop mixed waste. At the time, we came up to this problem of what to do with biodegradable waste, especially in the cities. Kerala is one big city, 400 kilometers long, 400 to some 200 kilometers wide, big city, everywhere people. So even a village is actually having a biodegradable waste management problem there. Then we started working on biodegradable waste. Then so one by one it came to the front. Sanitary waste, like that it came forward. Then we started tackling one by one with our technical reach. That's comprehend. Then that's how we reached into the comprehensive waste management solutions.
So you mentioned about pyrolysis and waste to energy plant. So could you just explain a bit what is pyrolysis and how do waste to energy plants function?
So pyrolysis is basically catalytic cracking of plastics into fuel. So one major requirement for catalytic cracking, it has to be a long chain polymer. It cannot, and it has to be a alkene based stuff. But if you look into our majority of the plastic in the market, they are all condensation polymers, basically from nylon, acrylic. All of them are actually, and they cannot be converted into, because they are all condensation polymers, and they don't, if they break down, actually they will not become the linear chain polymers which is required for fuel. So when you do pyrolysis cracking, the idea is good. You have to break it down and create a fuel which is good, one-time consumption, and you're using it for energy. But you only get around 30 to 40% of fuel. Balance is a tar, a toxic tar. So you're actually see all these things here from one monster, you create another monster. So then we realized we should not do that. And still people are claiming that 40 to 50%, then they get the gas, but they don't have a solution for all this multi-layer packaging which comes with plenty of condensation polymers. So that is one challenge with pyrolysis which I think should not be a solution at all. Next was waste energy plant. So waste energy plant is basically another big lie when people think that it's a renewable energy. See, renewable energy is something when actually keep on renewing it. There is no difference between fossil fuel energy and the plastic burnt energy. Basically, these are all solutions created by the plastic industries to promote plastic consumption. I'm not against plastic industries, but then one major shift probably which I would like to put forward is plastic is not bad. In fact, if we compare plastic, wood, metal, plastic has the least carbon footprint in terms of as a raw material for containers. So, but the problem is single-use plastic. If I can reuse plastic like a wooden container or a clay container, even clay is carbon positive, and like a metal container, plastic is the best solution. But unfortunately, the entire plastic industry has thrived on single-use business. That is where the problem starts. So waste energy plant basically, again, simply burn it. There is only one difference. It is tapping some energy. And the cost of collecting this waste plastic into the waste energy plant, burning it, eventually creating dioxin and furans, because they'll be having biodegradable waste in that. And there are different types of plastic. That too, in this era of discussing about renewable energy, solar energy, wind energy, it doesn't make sense. You cannot promote that. And this as a solution for waste management is going to be the biggest disaster for us. So these are the thought process which came into.
So when you mentioned about the condensation problem, so it's essentially the mixed plastic that we are talking about. If a plastic is made from one type of polymer, it's not mixed with other things, then the pyrolysis would work, right?
Yeah, so only for polyethylene and polypropylene it will work, and to a certain extent polystyrene, to a certain extent. For no other polymer it will work. Nylon, acrylic, they are all condensation polymers. That means they are having a hydroxyl group in between. If I am having a long chain hydrocarbon, then it will work. The moment I am having a hydroxyl group in between, it will not work. And if you won't believe, most of our plastic is actually condensation, especially nylon based. Many things have shifted from the conventional polyethylene, polypropylene into nylon based products. So, in fact, most of our plastic are condensation polymers. Many people, differ in this matter, but unfortunately, it has come to that. Strength, basically strength. Can't compare polyethylene and nylon in terms of utility. So
you mentioned that you realized that there was a problem of the mixed waste that was in the households, and you started when you started out, and you tried to intervene with the help of the government to do source segregation. So could you tell us a bit about that? Like, how was your journey when you came to, you went to a house and you asked them that please segregate this type of plastic. What was the reaction initially?
So in fact, when we started realizing about segregation, thankfully, the entire sustainability activity of Kerala was actually picking up. I'm talking about 2005, 2006, when the rest of the country was not even thinking about it. We were into action. Mainly because we were actually in a very, very fragile ecosystem. The entire Western Ghats was actually still reeling under pressure. So bringing the entire plastic into the seashore. So when we started looking into that, we want to reduce plastic. Thankfully, actually, we started working as an NGO, Pelican Foundation. We started working with a very big daily, newspaper daily, Mathrubhumi. That was our first program. And in that program, we went to schools and colleges, especially schools. And we taught the children about the problems of plastic, how when it is going across, what will happen, the forward linkage problem, recycling problem, etc. And along with the school children, along with the government bodies, we started small, segregation campaigns in the households. And there, thankfully, all the political systems, small organizations, environmental clubs, sports organizations, everybody had a role to play. That way, we were able to, what do you call it? It was pretty organic. It's not like it happened over a day but it happened organically. And there are plenty of stakeholders who came into play. The message was going on, thanks to the media support, especially having a daily in play, will have a lot of impact. The program was called Love Plastic, ironically. So that was basically so when you love something, please don't throw it. That was a message.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that
That's
went
a
well.
amazing strategy. It's so. Could you tell me more about uh, what kind of products, interventions, as well as services does Kenterra offer to mitigate all these challenges?
So from an NGO to Kentra itself, there was a transformation. So we worked with as an NGO for almost 10 years, from 2010 to 2020. And during this time, we also started a research lab with the support of government funding. This was for creating alternative solutions, also supposedly to be alternative solutions. And then what we found in this journey was we actually did a lot of activities in this 10 years. I was a joint executive coordinator of National Games, in which we did a green protocol where there was no disposables consumed. So by the time we realized that there is no solution for non-biodegradable waste, there is no recyclability for plastic. I think in this, I would like to use this opportunity to communicate to the public. Hope you want to.
No.
Yeah. So the recyclability of plastic is a big lie. There are only 3 levels of recycling. The virgin plastic, which we actually can blow mold, we are seeing as plastic covers. We cannot recycle it as a plastic cover. Then we can only do an injection molding, because by the time I recycle it, I melt it, make a granule, 50% of its elasticity is gone. Then I can do a extrusion into some buckets, mugs, etc. Once a bucket and mug is broken, I can only injection mold into some bushes, etc. With this recycling, plastic comes to a dead end. That means not even a single gram of plastic manufactured in the surface of the earth has been recycled. It has been downcycled. So every day we are manufacturing 10 million tons of plastic. We have manufactured some 100 billion tons of plastic so far. Not a milligram has been recycled. It is there in our soil, in our water, in the air. So this is something which actually activated us, and then we started this green protocol activity, a life without disposables, where our first target was paper cup, paper plates, PET water bottles, and also aluminium foils because of its toxicity. I think now people know aluminium is very much reason for Alzheimer's and dementia, etc. One of my friend, Dr. Chakrapani in Cochin University, only is taking initiative to communicate this. According to him, if you are taking food from aluminium casseroles, aluminium migrates into the food. Once it is going into the stomach, it mutates the gut microbe. And the gut microbe will produce a protein which goes to the brain and creates dementia, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's. So just in the name of convenience and hygiene, you are creating uncurable. Bacteria is nowhere for a problem, but or a virus or a fungus. Our problem is chemical toxicity. So we started working on these disposables, and then That was a major activity, and then we created many events. National Games was one, and then we many pilgrimages, including Shabarimala. We have big pilgrimages in Kerala where lakhs of people come in every
Hmm.
religion. So everywhere we did green protocol activities, green protocol marriages. If you go into a marriage, we have this 100 types of plastic sitting in our table. So we started conducting events without plastics. So all these things we did, and then there came to a stage in Kerala where the entire state actually started taking it up, and a lot of plastic reduction activity. That is when we saw one very typical problem.
Okay.
You're frozen.
Okay. Okay. But I can totally hear you. You were talking about the green protocols, the marriages that you undertook, as well as
Oh
the
yeah,
national
right.
games and the. Uh,
So this went on, and the entire yeah. So when we were working as an NGO or 2000 from 2000, we could do many activities in Kerala. Starting, I was a joint executive coordinator of National Games, where we introduced a activity where we do events without disposables, paper cups, paper plates, etc. Aluminium foil, aluminum casseroles. So I don't know whether people will know that aluminum casseroles are very dangerous because they can leach out aluminum into the food, and this go to the stomach of the gut and mutate the gut microbe, which will produce a protein which migrates to the brain and creates plaque. This is major reason for the dementia and schizophrenia. Just a second. So, aluminum foil, PET bottles are responsible for phthalate toxicity. PET bottles have to be manufactured, transported under 20 degrees centigrade. And we are drinking water in that at 45. So, phthalate toxicity is another major problem. And so and then the entire thing is actually the recyclability is very minimal. So, we did this green protocol events in Kerala. And the Kerala state really responded well, and I think plenty of events happened, including religious functions, Shabarimala pilgrimage, Malayacha pilgrimage, stuff like that. So over a period of 10 years, the entire waste reduction program went very well. But at that time, you saw a very peculiar problem. The bulk waste generators, especially apartment complexes, gated communities, they were actually struggling because they didn't have an appropriate technology. As per the rule, the solid waste management rule, they are supposed to compost at source. And composting at source was a big challenge because of this leachate, maggots, smell, and then lack of segregation. And we started intervening in terms of mind change management, going and talking, trying to support them as an NGO, but nothing worked. Then in one of the facility we did in a very professional way, where we charged them a subscription charge, put some good professionals, operations experts. They know how to manage the manpower, resources, etc. It worked brilliantly. So then we realized, so the what is requirement in waste management is actually a professional standard operating procedure, something akin to what we used to do in pharma, including logbooks, collection, data management, CRM. So the entire, the activity shifted from an activism into a professional service. And that is when we realize that, an activism alone will not solve the problem. It has to be backed by technology. It has to be backed by, services, because the government, the society got tuned to services. They need, like a king and queen, they need service, the society. So,
mhm.
and we are tuned to that. And we decided to do that. And at the time, the startup ecosystem was very good, and we initiated the startup company, Pelican Kenterra, which was purely focusing on bulk waste management, focusing on apartment complexes and gated communities. So this is how we reached there. And we developed, with our innovation, we developed specific composting inoculums, which can very aggressively convert this biodegradable waste into manure, and especially as a soilless planting media. That is our innovation. We designed composting bins which can function without smell, which can collect leach, very good aerobic conditions. We developed equipments also, crushing machines, dewatering units. So we developed many end-to-end stuffs which solve many problems. So one problem resulted in one more innovation. Went through that, kept on updating. We're still updating actually. I think every 6 months we are having an innovation coming into play. That's how we create an array of biodegradable waste management solution, which I think is a primary requirement in a bulk waste generator. For example, an apartment complex of around 100 houses will be producing around 80 kgs of waste every day. We're talking about 2.4 tons of biodegradable waste over a month and around 1,200 to 1,300 kgs of compost. This is actually a big operation. You're talking about a industry level operation. And forget about big apartment complexes like 1,000, 2,000 apartment complexes. They are like a mini manufacturing unit in play. Not even a mini, actually a mega manufacturing unit in play. Talking about hundreds of kilos of raw material. So we designed equipments and consumables for that, created standard operating procedures. And now we are operating in Kochi and Bangalore, putting our legs into Delhi, Lucknow, Coimbatore, Chennai, Hyderabad, focusing on bulk waste generators, especially apartment complexes and gated communities. So if you ask me what we offer, one is right from source collecting door to door. Pakka SOP in the sense like training the staff not to take waste from houses who are not segregating, communicating this to the management committee immediately via WhatsApp, and then getting it rectified. So I think the whole thing, if you ask me what is the best part of our deal, we train the households to be sustainable. So I am sure like wherever we are servicing the next generation, like how they know how to brush the teeth, how to eat, they will know how to segregate. It's just that's like it has to happen like how do we get up and wash our face and brush your teeth, eat food. Segregation should become a part and parcel of our life, and that is what is the first thing which we focus on. And thankfully most of the management committees cooperate with us. Wherever they don't cooperate, we leave, because we cannot do anything beyond that point. So yeah, that is impossible. And then we have this compost or inoculum, which actually was a big life changer, because we realized that a good inoculum, which is an aggressive fungus, is very much required. So conventionally, we all thought bacteria can compost. So bacteria was used as a composting inoculum. But bacteria cannot decompose lignin. Most of the bacteria cannot decompose lignin, which is the vegetative protection given by nature to the vegetative matter. Lignin is given as a coating over the cellulose. So bacteria cannot penetrate it. So what happens naturally is the fungus come, inoculate the waste, then decompose it, then the bacteria go in. This is what we found. So we developed a fungal microbe, fungal inoculum, which will straight away start functioning and pretty aggressive strain, which will compost into the food waste. And as a bonus, what we got is we got a compost with low electrical conductivity. So electrical conductivity is basically in simple terms. High EC means it will hold all the nutrients. Low EC means it will facilitate nutrient transfer. So most of the manure generated with bacteria are of high EC. That is why we have seen when you are putting the compost into the plant, sometimes the plants will die. People call it heat. If it is heat, you can pour water. So it is basically the electrical conductivity of the manure which will occlude all the cations, all the minerals irreversibly. In our compost, because the fungus eat away all the polyphenolic anionic material, it is actually a soilless planting media. You can directly plant into that. In cities, we are changing a huge situation. We need soil in cities. So we go to the farmlands and mountains, harvest the topsoil, bring it to the city. So we all do solstice to purity. So now, thanks to our inoculum, we are developing soilless planting media inside the city. So what we did, we developed a module by which the road medians can be filled with compost. That means the road medians are using tons and tons, truckloads of soil from the neighboring farmlands. We can stop that. We can use our compost. And the biodegradable waste is transported kilometers away to the outskirts, mostly into the head of some bottom of pyramid people. We can stop that. Let the cities compost and use the compost in-house for urban gardening. This is a solution which we came through. So it came in a sequence, if you say, like it came over a period of 6 to 7 years of experimentation. But now we feel that the best solution is animal husbandry. See, conventionally food was consumed, our food waste was consumed by animals in a village. Like I didn't have waste. I didn't know what is waste in my village. We had cows, cats, goats, hens. This divide, urban-rural divide, spoiled it. So we thought of how to transfer this. So many systems are still there which transport this food waste into the animal husbandry. But then people talk about this infection, all these things. Animal husbandry has become very sophisticated. So what we thought, let us find developed a microwave dehydration system, which can dehydrate and sterilize food waste into animal feed. So that innovation is now, that is the latest innovation into the kitty. We are also working on a couple of solutions where this non-biodegradable waste like plastic, paper, etc. can be converted into panels. We are also working on how we can convert sanitary waste into activated carbon, something like that, so that everything is having some value addition. So this is what is Kenterra's journey is about.
So, all procedures that you mentioned, so are they proprietary or is it open source and anyone can use these?
Yeah, so three of them are actually, two of them are patented. Third is three of them are patented. The fourth is under patent. Fifth is under development. So, but then we are ready to collaborate with people who are actually having similar mind. So everywhere we are having channel partners. In Kerala we have many channel partners. In Bangalore we have. So everywhere we collaborate with like-minded people who think about sustainability before anything. The sustainable practices should be the benchmark of due diligence, not the ease of operation, not the money which is going to come. See, if you look into every government's or every stakeholder's decision making, those, for example, had an experience in Delhi government where they were telling that people will not segregate.
Yeah.
So that means the government is themselves are putting it for granted. I had a similar experience in Cochin Corporation also. When one of the stakeholder major, like a mayor person, they were telling that people will not segregate. Now Cochin Corporation is one of the best corporation where everybody is segregating. So we cannot take people for granted. They will change. So the due diligence has to happen based on the sustainability, the carbon footprint, and that is what we are trying to promote.
Also mentioned that initially you started out as an NGO where the first part was awareness and then you eventually became a startup. So could you highlight a few pointers where you faced difficulties because you were an NGO or loss of opportunities as you were an NGO and that is why you became a startup. So what were the reasons which led to this transformation?
Yeah, that's a great question because I have this both the minds as an activist and a businessman. As an activist, we feel that the other person is responsible. Okay, when I go and talk, hey, my mood is different. I will get
Yes.
angry. I will get upset. You are not doing this. You are the blah blah. And it's a different approach. I feel that I am a crusader. I am like great saint Manoj in action, and all of you are supposed to hear me. But in business, the client is the king. The approach is different. Like the client may not segregate, but then we should nicely tell, please segregate. Couple of times, third time, fourth time, fifth time, and I cannot point a finger on them. So this is a completely different approach. And in the activism part or an NGO part, the entire drive is basically subjective. Like some transition is happening. We'll basically more of a non-objective. Like this campaign is happening. Some people are. We will not evaluate, but in a business, every parameter is evaluated.
Yeah.
However, the passion in that's what there is a difference. Okay, so when you come to the business, everything is basically a machine. So if I tell so much of segregation, okay, so much of segregation. Can I little dilute? Okay, little dilution is okay. But in activism, it doesn't happen. So we have a two different approach in activism and business entirely. It's very difficult to mix both.
So could you tell the major problems you faced as an NGO and the major problems you are facing as a startup? So what is the difference of problems that you've been facing?
So it's again another great question. So I think this is one major differentiator I am also considering. NGO is something which plows the field, and business is something which harvests. As simple as that. Okay. So we toiled for 10 years, created the ecosystem in Kerala. Now we are able to harvest a little bit of whatever we have lost. A little bit
Hmm.
of money we are able to recover. And without an NGO, we cannot plow. We need to have a plow to plow the field. That energy is required. But business is a little more easy to handle because the objectives are more crystal clear. In That is one major differentiate: hard work in NGO and little bit comfort zone in business. Second, the toughest challenge in NGO is we are actually getting into a no man's land where there is no protocol, there is nothing, we don't know what to do, and everything is basically whatever we do is criticized. We are all crazy fellows. Stand, correct. We are the change makers, right? So we are all crazy fellows, and we are all talking about utopian steps, impractical steps. All this comes to an NGO. Once you get into the business, another set of problems come, like all these government regulations. So if you are an NGO, no problem, like not much problem. But once you get into the business, entire government regulations, still I think India is very difficult to run a company because of the number of documents which we have to put everywhere. And as an NGO, as a scientist, it's very difficult for we have to put consultants who actually draw blood from us, and it's very expensive actually to run a small organization in India with thousands forms to give to ROC, to income tax, to ESI, to PF. This keeps on going, like this, and that is where one problem is. Second thing is, it's pretty easy to get a CSR fund for an NGO comparing to get an investment for a company or a loan. So when we are actually into non-profit, everybody will come and give us money. But the same thing I'm doing as a company with small profit of 10% EBITDA, nobody want to give money. So, so it's like a mixed and match feelings in both the sides.
So at this point of time, is the NGO also functional?
NGO is very difficult. So NGO, we have a activity going on. So wherever there is some sort of a mind change management activity, very less actually, because especially NGO is functioning in Kerala. So what NGO still is doing a few things like, for example, we are trying to, when we get into a company, when we get into an apartment complex, there is a reduction program which we are pioneering, especially on menstrual cups and not using disposable items inside an apartment complex where they can buy some cutleries and give it for rent, stuff like that. So basically against paper cups, paper plates, etc. There the NGO go and do a role in terms of education campaigning where there is no business involved. And so the company supports NGO in that. The manpower in the NGO is supported by the company. So all the mind change management activities done by the NGO, because we want to create specific roles. The business people cannot do the activism. Activism people should not do business. So that's how we manage. It's two different genetic make.
Correct. I mean, once a person starts, feeding on passion, they can't really think about the profits
Absolutely.
and the other compliances that you have to do with it, because for
Absolutely.
them everything has to be perfect, and it kind of is a utopian world for them.
Absolutely. So I don't involve in the business matter actually, because then I will actually direct them in the wrong way. So I only provide that quality control. Whether they don't do any as an organization inside our company, I don't want anybody to compromise on quality. So my job is to check the quality. Smarter business people are running the show. So I'm providing the technology and the activism or the quality control. That is how it functions. It's impossible. You're absolutely right. We cannot go and think about profit at that time.
So let's take an example of a person who wants to do similar kind of activities, who wants to run their own impact based association or impact based organization, because you did a lot of research before you went into it, right? So for a person who is starting out, how should they go about doing the research and developing a sort of, like you develop inoculums and different type of machinery? So what is the process for doing that, and what kind of a mindset is required to start something?
Again, that's a question which I answer many times, especially when youngsters in colleges come and ask me this question. If you look into my transformation, I was putting my hand into every waste: industrial waste, build C&D waste, chemical waste, e-waste, non-biodegradable waste, sanitary waste. Everything I used to put my hand into. Now we are focusing on biodegradable waste. That's all. All other things are actually our side. So we don't do any business on non-biodegradable sanitary waste. We don't want to make money out of it. We hand it over to the channel partners free. They should make money out of it. That headache should go out of my head. So my suggestion is focus on one problems and become an expert in that. If you are focusing on biodegradable, focus on biodegradable, non-biodegradable, sanitary, so much e-waste problem. And now waste reduction problems, rental problems. How do we upcycle or recycle clothes, leather, alternatives, green alternatives? The entire sustainability business is opened up. So if you look into a mini cohorts, which we are actually a part of mini cohorts, like Brigade REAP cohort, CII GEC program, CGAP program, then Green R program. So we have many companies. Unbelievable. So there's a guy in Salem is sitting and doing a packaging with fungal mycelium. Another person is trying to extract thread from the cloths. So like, some people are trying to find out tannins, which doesn't use chromium in leather. So that leather can become biodegradable. Like, and in Bangalore, I was talking to another organization called Livable. They are bringing all the sustainable organizations for a community. Water, waste, energy, and then giving it as a package. So there is a huge opportunity, but only one thing, focus on one thing. As an organization, you should build up an expertise on one thing. Once you develop into a sustainable revenue, you can diversify or actually put your hand into others. That is why my humble request.
So you are kind of providing end-to-end services for a household, and household complexes and all. If you could guide me through the process of, let's say, you onboard me as a client. I have a building of 100 flats. I have 100 flats in. So, what would be the first step that you would take, and the processes around it, and what kind of infrastructure should that building have to uh, install all the equipments that you have? Like, is it even necessary to have uh, equipments in the building itself? How does that all function?
Yeah. So first thing is basically when we get into an apartment complex, we have multiple solutions. One is sales of equipments. So especially for smaller apartment complexes less than 50, it's impossible to service them because one manpower going and doing that service is not possible. So generally we sell them and then we support them through telecalls or visits. Second is we have a subscription model where the party don't have to pay for the equipments. We go and install our equipments at our cost. They have to pay a subscription of monthly subscription. But then they have to give us a deposit, a refundable deposit. So these are things which we have to explain to them. So like, see, the party who is sitting in an apartment complex, they have been thoroughly beaten for the last 15 years by various factors in solid waste, man. They don't believe anybody. The client, the apartment complex don't believe anybody, right from the builder to many people who have gone through, they have lost money. So one major differentiator what we have brought is we will not sell you equipments, especially for big apartment complex. We don't want to. We will come and service you. That means the entire risk of the equipments is my head. But you should give me a deposit because my equipment's in your place. I don't know tomorrow if the management committee is changing, you may not even give that to me. So I want to ensure that I am having something. So 3 months notice period, I'll give back this money. If you want, I can give you a check or a promissory note or anything what you want, or a bank guarantee I will give you. Within 3 months, I'll take this stuff and get out. That gives a lot of confidence. So I have to explain this to them. So this is one major icebreaker what we have experienced in our initiatives. So we tell these models to them. So before telling this model, I'll tell you, but that is the most critical part. Getting in an apartment complex is for a discussion itself is actually. So I need to find one Abhishek ji inside that apartment complex who is green. I think and this is an advice to everybody. And getting that green person, according to me, is getting into the getting an angel into the heaven. So we use that them as a tool for discussing, providing awareness. So convincing management committee is very difficult because they have limited resources, limited money. A lot of apartment complexes, the maintenance fees is not collected properly. People don't pay properly, so have a paucity of funds. So we deal with this management committee. Then the second request what they tell is we want to meet with all the family members. And we take a class. The class go for around 2 hours. And most of the cases, I have seen that the people who come inside and who go outside is completely different people. We showcase what actually the problem, starting from this aluminium problem, plastic problem, what happens when they burn dioxin, furan. And this is where we are surprised. Despite so much of materials available in the internet, so much of IEC campaigns, 60-70% people have not seen this. So I don't believe that. Okay, so all this IEC campaign, what the government and NGOs like us we are doing, it's absolute waste. It is not going to the eyeballs of people who are supposed to see that. It is again seen by people like us who have already seen many times. This is a major challenge actually. So I don't know how to take this IEC campaigns into the eyeballs of people who have to change, not to the people who have changed. So they are surprised when I'm telling, oh, when plastic is burning, you will have toxic gases. First time, educated classes, well-educated people. So that is one thing which we do. We talk about the toxicity which is going into the children. That is a huge transformation. Then we train the staff. What is segregation? What is the quality of segregation? Where you can compromise, where you should not compromise. And there we actually create a quality. We will only appoint people who can handle a smartphone. That is one problem which we have. Because the person has to take photographs of the unsegregated waste. They will send to our supervisor. Immediately the supervisor will send to the management committee. The management committee will caution. We have scenarios where the people had come back from office and segregated. Because probably the housemaid would have mixed it and they didn't want to be a party of that. So that's where the transformation we are seeing. People have come back from the office, segregated, and told us sorry. No, I'm sorry that this happened. So this change, and one of the person was telling, I felt like I was shitting in public. That was so much I was ashamed when I got this message that my home didn't segregate. This transformation, I think, we couldn't even expect 10 years back. So that we do, but definitely there are people, 10% of people who are not bothered, who are not concerned. They think that all of us are actually servants, and they are all the emperors of this world, and they are actually, I will not segregate. You do what you want. At the time, we use the management committee's help for correcting them if required, legal procedures. Management committee do all these things. If they don't do, we fail. In 90% of the cases, it has happened. Couple of cases we also failed, and we had to leave because the management committee told this is how we are going to proceed. If you are interested, you proceed. No, we will not collect one piece of unsegregated waste because we don't know what to do with that. I have to take it to my home and keep it and clean it because we don't have a forward linkage for unsegregated waste. We will not do that. So that strict procedures have created a lot of value addition to our team. They are confident that we will not compromise on anything. So they will use that body language when they deal with the clients. And then this is the stage what we are in now. But we are now stepping into the next stage of waste reduction, talking about package-free grocery stores, package-free grocery supply chain. So we have done many menstrual cup campaigns already. That is a part of that. So even reusable cutlery banks, all these things we are telling. But one major stuff what we are going to do is this one package free, and then repairing campaigns. How to repair your old clothes, bags, which we forgot. There is something available like that, and many people are having their livelihood with that. Even umbrellas, we get a lot of umbrellas which can be repaired. In fact, a lot of clothes which can be used. So we are trying to connect that. That is our next step, so that it doesn't end up in waste. So these are the things which we do.
So if we specifically talk about segregation of waste, so could you just explain what happens if I don't segregate and if I segregate? What are the processes that the waste would undergo in both these processes, if it's unsegregated and if it's segregated?
So if it is segregated, as we know, it will be segregated into three: biodegradable, non-biodegradable, and sanitary waste.
Yeah.
So in that, biodegradable waste, as you know, will contain kitchen waste and food waste. Non-biodegradable will contain all plastic, glass, paper, metal, rubber, cloth, resin, leather, etc. Sanitary waste is diaper, napkins. So the chances of biodegradable waste, if it is having even one bit of plastic, let us consider plastic. So it is an aerobic composting system. I have one bit of plastic in the top. My air column will get blocked. Whatever microbes in that column will not getting oxygen, and it will start a different metabolic pathway. For example, if there is air, oxygen, carbon will become carbon dioxide, sulfur will become sulfur dioxide, nitrogen will become nitrogen dioxide. If there is no oxygen, the same bacteria has a hydrogen pathway. Sulfur will become hydrogen sulfide. Smell. Nitrogen will become ammonia. Smell. Carbon will become methane. Smell. So this is what happens when you are not segregating, putting even a small bit of plastic. Now forget about if you are putting resin, leather, rubber, and all those things, cloth, all those other things, they all have toxic materials which can kill the bacteria and fungus. So composting will not happen, including paper. So people think that paper is a biodegradable material. Not anymore. In my younger days, paper was biodegradable because it only had cellulose. So what will happen within 10 years, it will crumble, it will powder off. But paper, what probably we are using now, it will stay for centuries because it is impregnated with antimicrobial agents. That means if I am putting into the composting bins, the microbes in the composting bin will die. So this is another problem when I am putting, if I don't get, I call it clean biodegradable waste. So clean biodegradable is very important for composting, and more sensitive is biogas plant. Now look at what happens when my non-biodegradable waste is not clean. For example, food packets or milk packets. So the entire, whatever small recyclability happening is for plastic. There is no recycling for resin, leather, rubber, cloth, no recycling. Okay, forget about it. They are all burnt. So plastic, if it is having food waste, I'm not washing after buying a parcel food, eat half of it or little bit of it, or even little bit of thing, it is going into a melting process where it is heated over 150 degrees centigrade. At the time, this organic matter along with this plastic will produce something called as a producer gas, carbon monoxide plus hydrogen. We all have learned that it actually is an inflammable material. So in the plastic recycling industry, it will start accumulating and a small spark is sufficient to explode. So that is why the plastic industries are keeping on telling, requesting, please don't send unsegregated waste. Please don't sell. And it is a liability, it's a matter of life and death. So if I am sending unsegregated waste to them, they will not allow me to next time put my foot into the factory. So they will open smell. If they get any smell, even 1 milligram of food waste is sufficient for smell. They will not, that's it. They will blacklist me. People should understand this. So they are blaming government that, why this plastic is not getting recycled. Not because they don't clean. Milk packets, food waste, oil packets, everything has to be cleaned. And we have measured that for cleaning milk packet, it will take 15 seconds. For cleaning a food packet, it will take around 30 seconds. Cleaning oil packet along with soap, it will take 1 minute. And if people don't have time for it, you will go into hospital. That's it. You'll spend your time in hospital. So we have to choose what to do. And people, if somebody is telling people cannot segregate, they have to reduce maybe one advertisement in between two serials. As simple as that. So they can miss an advertisement. Yeah, ad.
That's an interesting way to put it. That they can miss on the serials, they can do that.
Miss not the advertisement. I'm not even telling serials. The advertisement will go for 5 minutes, right? So let them miss to a couple of ads.
So we also mentioned about the recurring problem of people not segregating waste. So apart from the interventions that you do with your NGO as well as the training session that you take when you are onboarding any society, are there any specific things that you tell them to make them more aware, more absorbent about the information?
Oh, in fact, this is a never-ending story. We cannot stop. Let me recharge my laptop. I think the battery is down.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Sure.
Give me a second. Yeah. So despite all these things, can I go ahead? Can I proceed?
Yeah, sure, sir, sure.
So despite all these things, we get every day at least one complaint from every apartment complex. It's a continuous story. So we have a standard, a display of how to segregate. One, we immediately put to the management committee, tell that this house has not segregated, please send them the message. So they send this to so this is, it's something like, an addiction. Somebody who has smoked cigarette and has done de-addiction, the moment they get smell of cigarette, they'll get a tinge. I want to have one smoke. It's something like a continuous process, and a continuous de-addiction program has to continue.
So, could you mention did why have you developed a sort of plethora of services which deal with all the problems that a household is facing? Like, can't it be that there are different vendors for different problems? So, what is the need for one specific vendor to solve all of the household problems?
Yes, so that's also a great point, because we also started dealing with only biodegradable waste. But then, for example, let us come to the segregation. I am getting in the biodegradable waste a piece of plastic. That's a problem for me. That means right from segregation, I should get involved. And then as a client, as an apartment complex, as a management committee, for equipments, they have to call somebody. For maintenance, for consumables, inoculum, they have to call somebody. For non-biodegradable waste, for garden waste, for sanitary waste. So 5 people, they will, 5 clients, 5 vendors. It's actually a big mess. So this is where we realize a single call, end-to-end waste management, sustainability. Everything can be captured if actually a single vendor. But then we are partnering. So we are actually the face to the management committee, getting all the thrashing. But then we are supported by all this same set of people who are actually in the back end, who will not be able to take care of other functionalities. So that's why it's a symbiotic relationship.
At the end, you are not handling all the waste, as you mentioned. You are specifically, handling these different type of waste, right? With your machinery and all of that. So, let's talk about the problem that a small society or a small building would face. They might not have the infrastructure to, install the machinery. So how can they, be a part of the process, and how do you deal with such kind of, I'm sure many of the uh, societies would approach you and ask you that we don't have the space, so how can we do this? So what's the
So,
solution?
I think you're talking about individual houses.
Let's say individual houses, yeah.
Yeah, or houses with 2, 3 houses, to 2 to 3, 4 houses.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we have composting systems for all this, right? From 1 kg per day, 2 kg per day, 3 kg, 5 kg, 10 kg. We can take care of the composting. But in terms of service, it's a challenge. So if especially if there is a residents association. So now if I'm talking about apartment complexes which is vertical, or gated community which is more organized.
yeah.
So this is also happening across India. Many, for example, I was talking about in Bangalore. They were talking about one residential colony, horizontal. They have joined together, and they are creating small pockets of composting areas wherever space is available. And every house has been given individual composting bins. So we also have this bucket bin composting units for individual houses, where small packets of inoculum is used, and we can do composting. And the challenge there is non-biodegradable waste and sanitary waste. There, the community has to engage like an apartment complex. They have to engage, and this is now picking up one of. Our co-founder is working. Shantanu is working in Delhi and Lucknow. Couple of apartment residential colonies have come forward for that. How we support them in this matter. So slowly that is coming forward. And in Kerala, most of the residential colonies we have collection system. In Bangalore we have collection system. So it's happening in around, but the major problem is a mandate. So there, as I said, a citizen can throw. An apartment complex guy cannot, but a common citizen person, for example, if you get into a city, there are localities where it is well organized, but then there are localities people come and throw it in the road and nobody can ask a question. So there, we have to have stricter rules. There should be a requirement requirement from the society that they have to manage waste and this cannot be thrown out. So such type of challenges are there. But I am confident that 80% of the houses in a city, they can do biodegradable waste management at source if there is a requirement. See, if you can put a toilet of much stinking material right in your house inside your bedroom, you can put a small composting bit near somewhere in the house. See, if you look into, let me put an analogy. In a family of 4, per day we will be producing around 200 liters of sewage liquid. It is somehow getting managed in a septic tank or through a drainage system. At least it is going to be in your house for a few hours. So why can't we manage 1 kg of food waste in your house? It's purely a attitude.
And you have to deal with, or at least you have to deal with the waste that you are creating. If one handles their own waste, then at the end, the society will have, much lesser waste than
Yes.
the usual part.
And cheaper solutions. See, you have to understand, you're expecting some poor woman to come and pick up your waste for the rest of the till the world is ending.
Hmm.
We want to maintain the poor people. Some waste picker, some poor person has to be. We are expecting a slave to be there. That is the attitude. That's not fair. See, I have many people working with me. I'm sure there's a last generation waste workers at this in this way, because their children are studying colleges. They will, one of my staff's daughter has become a chartered accountant. So we don't expect that to happen, right? In the society, we are expecting always a poor person is going to come and pick up your waste. And at one day, it will be a very well-educated person is going to come in a vehicle and pick your waste. And that's going to be costly. That is where things will even out. That is the future. That is why we are waiting for the day when government will stop putting forward this unsustainable, cheaper solution through contractors who collect and dump it somewhere and then forget it. It's a mafia. It's a big mafia. It's like, I'm coming from a bigger mafia like pharma, but then this is a lesser mafia. So this is the challenge. I think the biggest challenge is government putting forward cheap solutions, unsustainable solutions.
So, how do you think this problem can be solved at a much larger scale?
Implement rules. See, for example, traffic, not putting a helmet was not a big deal. But now I think across India now it is getting fined. So it only how much we say in Kerala it is now compulsory both the rider and the pillion have to. Bangalore there is a little compromise, but at least one person has to put helmet across India mostly. This has happened in the last 15 to 20 years. Similarly, traffic rule violations, red artificial intelligence in the road. So if you look into the road traffic, it's a good example of how rules can be very strictly implemented. So GST implementation. So if you look into the entire rules and regulations implementation, India is going forward. So let them implement rule and don't allow corrupt practices to take over. So unsegregated waste collection, putting forward, they are all corruption and mafia. All tipping charges, lorries, number of lorries, number of kgs. So actually I was seeing in Bangalore street, a lady is sweeping. 60% is garden waste. Or 80% is or 90% is garden waste, hardly 1 or 2 plastic covers and 1 paper cup. If she remove it, the entire thing can go to the next park. But I am very clear that she has been instructed to fill it up in a plastic cover so that the weight of the lorry is high.
Yeah.
It will become a mixed waste, it will go to the dump site. So these are the challenges. So I think the things will change. Like in Kerala, the only thing was, the government strictly implemented rules. So there was a very interesting program which I think the entire nation should copy. If I see somebody dumping waste, if I can take a visual of that person along with the waste dumping a video and uploading to the portal, I will get 2,500 rupees. From where? After finding that person, the local self-government body will find that person. I think they will take double, 5,000 from him, give me 2,500. It's a great deal, right? Why can't we implement this? I think many people will start doing this job. So you find one person, you get 2,500 rupees. That is like 60,000 rupees a month. I really salute the additional chief secretary of Kerala, Sharada madam. She implemented this. It worked very well.
That should be implemented all over India.
Yeah.
Even when people are throwing, they're looking here and there. Somebody's taking my video. So at least they have a deterrent.
And we'll be scared who is standing with the video, where probably which angle. Now we can only have to fear a video camera on the top, which is not functioning. But here, a guy who is standing, very unassumingly reading a newspaper can be detective, like like
That's
a
good.
CIA or a NIA.
So I would also like to know, I've been in this industry for so long. What are the trends and future possibilities that you see in the sector? If a person wants to, come into the sector, what are the opportunities that they can try to milk and they can try to, take advantage of?
Two trends are happening. One is short-term goals. The earlier things which I told collection, and the entire collection mafia is a huge money. So people are many people are behind that unsustainable solutions, and in which actually plastic collection and forward linkages actually and EPR systems are there. I don't. They are all telling because I don't appreciate all these things. I'm telling it and finishing it off. EPR, the rules of EPR are highly unsustainable. That means I can make plastics, some NGO will pick it up and send it for recycling, give me a certificate, I make enough plastics. No problem. I have to pay that NGO. It doesn't look clean. It looks like, you are enabling plastic industries and packaging industries to create as much as plastic as possible. Doesn't look, maybe to start with, at least to bring everybody under the EPR, it looks good. But this is not going to work anymore. So those things I would like to caution, because anybody who is thinks sustainably, please don't go there. However, on the other side, alternatives are a huge possibility for everything, right from packaging to. So first is basically recycling steps for cloths, reuse recyclable, what do you call, container banks. For example, the refilling container banks, uh, we have dabbas which can come back to the packaging. Like glass industry we had before, like colas were packed in glass bottles, right? So it is going to come back. Such type of supply chains initiative is going to come. Then I was telling, like, especially in packaging, uh, how do we pack with biodegradable packaging, not biodegradable plastic and biocompostable plastic. I should be very clear, both of them are a big lie. There is no compostable plastic in this world. There is it's all big lie. Compostable plastic is there, but it will compost only inside a company. It will not
Mhm.
compost inside the soil. And no biodegradable plastic. It's only biodegrading into monomers and dimers. It is actually more toxic than the plastic itself. So people have to be very clear about that. Government has to be very clear about it. But I'm talking about leaves. People are actually now making packaging with leaves, stuff like that, pressing with with cocoa peat packaging, stuff, bagasse packaging. It's happening like that. And next is circular economy, finding out, that's a very advanced situation where actually localized solutions for localized problem rather than transporting it across. So futuristically, I think technology is going to have a huge say. But then mostly it is passion driven, and it is no sustainability driven. It's having a huge challenge in terms of the existing industries. But thankfully, the industries are also, we are also working with many industries in terms of sustainability. And there are all changes happening because people actively want to pursue a lot of solutions technologically wise, as well as plenty of solutions are available.
So are there any tips that you would like to give to a person apart from, focusing on one thing, as you mentioned earlier, who wants to enter into the industry?
Yeah, one is, second is the business target customer. So you have industries, you have apartment complex, gated communities, bulk waste generators, residential colonies. So there are different types of bulk waste generators and different types of each person has a different requirement also. So one is actually focusing on one product, one activity, like one of the solutions. Second is actually fixed on a specific target customer so that that you can. But one challenge is basically it will be a little scattered, but then we can give some niche service to them. That is the second thing. Third thing is, we have to constantly innovate. We cannot get stuck into some solutions which are more than a couple of years because others are innovating. So if you are into a competition, you have to innovate and you have to partnership. There should be partnerships also, both for innovations as well as operations. So that this channel partnering is very important in waste management. So that there is, because the problem is big, we need more number of people. Fourth thing is basically ensure that you are not spoiling or competing with government functionalities. Very, very difficult. Or you should have enough bandwidth. Can be, you are doing a business, in the corner you can start pushing them, like what we are doing now, challenging. So that that will not be our breadwinner because it's going to take a long time. So the government systems are very difficult to change. These are a few things which probably I would like to put it forward.
So it has been an interesting, conversation with you about how you transformed from NGO and then you went towards a startup. So your own mindset would have been, shifted towards this problem, right? You realize that only awareness isn't the only goal. If there is only awareness, then nothing is happening. At the end, from awareness, you have to go into the implementation part. And as you push for awareness, you also have to push for implementation. So, what do you think is a right way for an NGO to go about things? Like, do you think every NGO should have a trajectory like this so that they can, bring the change that they are, advocating for?
That's a tricky question because I don't think everybody has a bandwidth for business. See,
Fair enough.
it's very easy to do an activism. Actually, it is very easy to run an NGO because you get somehow some funds, CSR, etc. We can run it. Running a business needs a lot of business acumen, and it actually starts from management to finance to operations into supply chain. Which unless you are getting a right business partner, so I'm blessed with having a few advisors, mentors, etc., who supported me in this entire endeavor. So they are actually backing up me a lot, guiding me. And of course, I've been in this. I was in corporate for some time, so I know I have had a glimpse of the entire business segment. So that was a little easier for me to understand what I was not doing right things, though it took a lot of time for me to understand. So every NGO has a role to play. So NGO has a huge role to play. NGO can be a facilitator, but NGO has to appear practical. They cannot be. They should not. Though they are putting forward very, very tough goals, they should dilute it in a small fashion and put it forward so that it is solvable by others. So I will not answering your question. I don't think it is advisable for all NGOs to get into business. I don't think so. So even this, let me put this way: this waste management business is not going to make you a millionaire overnight. For making money, I think there are multiple other things. Go into pharma only. But this is going to, for me, the balance sheet is money, which is actually is there a little bit. But I think, every day and night I live with a lot of satisfaction. Which I don't think I'm always in a what do you call, in a tourism or a tourist spot. That adrenaline and dopamine secretion is always there, trying to do something good. That's what we are all aiming for, right, in our life.
One more thing that came to my mind was that you were dealing with bulk waste generators that are households, right? But there are also now we can see a lot of restaurants, hotels, which are coming up, and there are already, an established chain of different organizations that deal with food, and you specifically are dealing with the food waste, organic waste. So have you also designed some sort of solutions for them as well, or are you in process of designing something similar?
Yeah. So my food dehydration system is for them because I will get very high quality segregated food waste from them. That too fresh. Because a hotel prepares food in the morning, by
Hmm.
afternoon I'll get the waste. Unlike a domestic where I'll start from morning to next day morning I'll get waste. So my entire dehydration animal feed system is only for commercial organizations, canteens, etc., caterers. So that I would like to address in the next 6 months. We hope we will be able to address that. That can be a big
Hmm.
game changer. See, there are two solutions coming out of this. One, animal feed manufacturing from food waste. You're taking very, commercial. It's a value addition of food waste in a big way. Compost can fetch you 5 rupees per kg or 10 rupees per kg, but then animal feed is 50 rupees per kg. There is a huge value addition for a manufacturer. So there can be plenty, many organizations or, small MSMEs which can come forward with the technology. Not only mine, anybody who want to make food waste, convert food waste into animal feed. The second advantage is, the animal husbandry has become so corporatized. It has become so it is becoming highly commercial. Many of the lands for agriculture for human food has been diverted into uh, animal feed manufacturing,
Hmm.
cultivation. Wherever it is not available, deforestation is happening, like what is happening in Brazil. Amazon is getting consumed, forests. Because many people want to cultivate animal feed materials. So these type of things across the globe, it is especially in Africa and all, animal feed cultivation is picking up. So, and at the same time food waste is happening. So we have to marry these two problems.
I mean, these are the problems of the century
It's a
that we
problem for the
have to
century.
deal with.
You said that it's a problem of the century.
So it was great talking to you. If you have any kind of a feedback on, what kind of questions I could have asked you, or anything that you want to add that I didn't ask.
One question probably I wanted to ask also, and I am asking Abhishek as a youngster, not like a podcast or a journalist who is asking this question. What can change you? No, you are a changed person. I'm struggling with youngsters, to be very honest. One, actually, they have lost faith in elders completely because we have been blah blah, hypocritic, and talking a lot, not doing anything. But then the participation of youngsters in environmental protection has come down drastically. I can't believe that when we were young, we were so socially oriented. But nowadays, any apartment complex I go, the same old guys, okay, 50, 55 guy, age year olds are actually what 40, above 40, 45. I can't see an youngster in a discussion. I want to ask, like, what can motivate an youngster to come and participate in the social activity? It's very difficult for you to answer because you
Hmm.
are differently oriented.
Even, I mean, what I have seen is that we need to see what are the, you know, effects of whatever activities we do. So let's say I'm a youngster in a city. My waste is being handled by a person who comes every morning. They ring the bell. They ask, give me the waste, and I just, my duty is just to, pick up the dustbin and dump it in the bag that they have. Right. I am not seeing any kind of uh, effects, so to say, because at the end
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there. I'm, busy on my phone, busy on my laptop, doing some sort of kind of a work. And even youngsters these days, what I've seen is they are not even going out. So they don't see the effects in the climate. Like yesterday only, we had like 50 plus uh, Celsius in Delhi, right?
Absolutely. 52
Yeah,
degrees, absolutely in
50,
Delhi. Yeah.
52 degrees. Like just to get out of the room, even turning off the AC is something that people are not doing. And there is a huge demand of electricity because every household will have their own AC. So
And
what
imagine those people who cannot afford it.
exactly?
It's the
They
plight
have
of
to
those
deal
people.
with it. Hmm.
Oh my God.
So if our system can somehow show what are the effects, it basically not only preach about them, but maybe let these youngsters visit a recycling center or visit a let's say a dump yard, a dumping place. Like I have Gazipur near me, right? Whenever I
Yeah.
have to go to Noida or someplace that way, that thing, it's just there. So every time when I am seeing people throw waste and all, I can relate to the problem that he's dumping it here, it will go to that landfill, right? So it's just that uh, people are living in posh colonies. In and around their system, they are not seeing any kind of waste. But if they step out of their societies, they'll see that. So one thing would be that more awareness, more sort of activities where these youngsters can go to these places and understand what a rag picker does. So they'll realize the extent of the problem, and most probably they'll change. What I feel, because I'm very optimistic, I feel that the change would happen if you show them the effects of it.
It's a good point. That means our IEC campaigns are not targeted properly. Does it mean like that?
I mean, yes, because even when people do these campaigns, they come with three different dustbins. They say, this waste would go into this waste would go into this, and this waste would go into this. No one is actually explaining the whole cycle, how it functions. That if you are not segregating, then everything would end up in a dump yard, right? And if because what I've seen is people are right now very logical. If you show them the logic behind the
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
they'll change. Because I've seen a lot of people, youngsters as well, who are now carrying their own water bottles,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
Who have
That's
a
the.
big bag of supplies that they have. They are not consuming these fast foods and not consuming those chips packets and not buying those bottles every now and
Yeah,
then.
I would like to share an experience yesterday. I was actually in a very big corporate. It's having around 5,000, 6,000 employees. I was in the food court in the afternoon. So around 1 year back, 2 years back when I went, actually they have two types of food courts. One fancy food courts for this burger, blah 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 stuff. Another with proper uta, like our thali. This time when I went, the thali side was full. So then I was asking like this. So they told yeah, other people have lost business because most people have started eating healthy.
Mm.
It's happening. It's happening. Good. At least some light at the end of the tunnel. So
Yeah, even COVID was a great game changer because
I
there
think
were
everybody
no.
forgot that, but actually,
Yeah,
as fast. Yeah,
that's the problem. We forget too easily.
absolutely. Second role, I think Abhishek ji probably, which I would like to ask you also. Probably we have to discuss is the role of women in the entire program. I think knowingly or unknowingly, actually, they are more sensitive to the health, into the responsibility, everything. Actually, that's what I'm seeing in Kerala. Most of the stakeholders are women, and they are actively participating, and they have access to the entire problems. This waste, maids, kitchen. I'm not discriminating that men don't enter into kitchen. So that way, I think there is a huge role for women specifically to play in this idea. And how do we no touch them, or how do we take this message to women especially?
So interestingly, I know this organization called Why Waste Wednesdays. So they are an NGO which is based in Delhi. So what they did was they tried to do a zero waste society. So what they were facing, the challenge was that people were not segregating the waste. Then they realized that they were educating the wrong people, because the person who is handling the waste is the maid, which who is coming there, and
Absolutely.
so what they did was they ran a campaign, a big campaign in which they were they were distributing sanitary pads, and they were also talking to these maids that were working in these households, and that is how they you know uh, they changed their behavior, and at the end of the day they started getting uh, segregated waste.
Well, makes sense. Definitely makes sense. I think this is
And
a learning for me.
yeah, this is a
We
learning
have
from
we have
them.
to. I was thinking always that we should target maids, but I never felt it is actually a requirement. You're absolutely right.
Maids, and even now, uh, in most of the India, even in the northern part that I live in, so the kitchen is handled by the women of the house. My mother
Absolutely.
handles the kitchen, right? So, uh, and obviously they are more sensitive towards it, because in my household, I have specifically seen that the organic waste that is generated goes to making the manure, because we have a, yeah, we have a terrace garden. My father loves gardening and all.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll tell you how this happens. Let's say if I'm cutting a kind of a vegetable, right? So I'm cutting a vegetable. So my father is like, he, do what? Just segregate the seeds out of it, because then I'll dry the seeds and we'll sow them. So that is how things go. So I think the whole family should think more sensitively about these things. And let's say, and also there's one more aspect to it, like the generation that we see now is a generation that was born and brought up in the cities itself. So they haven't seen
Mm,
the village part of it, they haven't seen the rural part of it, they haven't seen
yeah.
that uh, let's say some waste, some food is left in the household, so that would go to the state, go to the cattles.
Yeah.
Right. They just see that I ate the banana and I have the peel, so I'll just dump it there.
Absolutely.
So if we can somehow educate them about the villages, about how things happened in the rural areas, that would be a great game changer, I feel.
Yes. Definitely is. I think that is what the IEC campaign has to target a few more people very clearly. I think that is
Hmm.
the sense. And that is where the creativity starts. It needs a lot of marketing.
Yeah, I think marketing is something that has to be there for any type of organization,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
be it an NGO, be it an for profit. Marketing is something that everyone should do and look at.
Absolutely. Great. So a
It's
great discussion. Thank you so much for the insights.
Thank you so much, sir. It was nice talking to you. Hopefully, I'll reach out to you again in 6 months to understand what's the progress. Uh,
Sure.
okay, sir.
Definitely. Looking forward. Looking forward to meet you also possibly next time when I come to
Sure,
Delhi.
sure, sir. Sure, sure. Thank you so
Thank
much, sir.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.